Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Stone Cold by Valerie Davisson, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue, October 2nd, Otis Cafe, Lincoln City, Oregon. Parking his truck and trailer around back, Jim Brummer crunched his way across the gravel parking area and pulled open the front door of the busy cafe. Warm air infused with the comforting aromas of bacon, cinnamon, and fried everything made him glad he'd made time for breakfast. Nodding to people he knew, he slid into his favorite booth by the window and ordered as usual. Chicken fried steak, sausage gravy, hash browns, cremated, black coffee, eggs sunny side up, but whites fully cooked, Tabasco sauce, green, and keep the coffee coming. His server, Tina, pushing 70 and not more than 100 pounds soaking wet, scribbled his order quickly on her pad before moving on to the next customer. Tina was new, but to her credit, a few minutes later, she slid a large steaming platter of hot food in front of him. The eggs looked good, the hash browns were charcoal, and she got the right colored Tabasco sauce. Mentally, he upped her tip. By 7:15 a.m., he was on the road, both he and his truck fully fueled. His plan was to be at the job site and unloaded by 8. The lot was already cleared, but digging the foundation would take most of the day. With another job lined up for tomorrow, Jim wanted to wrap this one up before dark. A few minutes later, skillfully merging onto Highway 229, Jim slowed his pace. The Siletz Highway was well maintained, but had its share of tight turns after Kernville, and there was reduced visibility in some places due to overhanging branches. And then there were the deer. October was mating season. You never knew when one of the excitable animals would dash across the road. No sense winding up in a ditch before he even got to the site. But Jim was an experienced operator. He'd worked for several other excavation companies out of high school before opening his own small business 11 years ago. He knew the ins and outs of almost every road and highway in Lincoln County. That's why his Yelp reviews were as good as Otis Cafe's. Well, the cafe had almost 1,000 reviews, while his business only had 32, but still they both averaged above 4.5 stars. He turned on the radio, but all he could get out here was a country station, NPR, and a talk radio guy who was outraged about something. Finally, he switched it off and cracked a window. Listening to the wind was better than that. Before he tried again, he saw the entrance to Riverview Luxury Homes. The signage was large and new, with looping gold script and an artist's vision of what the development would look like once the houses were built. He had to admit it was an attractive area, conveniently located between Lincoln City to the north and Newport to the south, right by the Siletz River. Quiet, lots of trees, although most of those would be cut down. He followed the newly surfaced streets to Lot 72. When he arrived, he saw that the owner, a rich Portland guy he had only met once, had the lot cleared and the foundation area blocked out with stakes and strings, so it was ready to go. Rolling slowly from the street onto the dirt, Jim pulled his trailer to the right of the delineated area and parked. Leaving his coffee inside the truck for now, he walked to the back of the trailer to unload his mini excavator. He'd gambled on buying the best he could afford when he opened his own shop, and Minnie had never let him down. Removing and storing the chains that secured the machine en route, he lowered the ramps and walked around the trailer, giving everything a once-over. Making sure the wheels were aligned, he climbed in, started her up, rotated the arm 180 so it now led the way, and rolled it off the trailer onto the dirt, keeping the bucket partially extended, just skimming the ground. Being a solo operator, he'd learned to not take any shortcuts. There was no one to rescue him if he tipped over. Retrieving his coffee from his truck, Jim hoisted himself into the operator's seat, placing his insulated mug into the cup holder and checked his controls. When he was satisfied everything was good to go, he let off the safety lever and got to work. Building codes required anything near the river to go with an elevated foundation, keeping the house above ground moisture and mitigating flood risks. So today he would be trenching for concrete footings, which would later hold everything up. This consisted of digging a narrow trench about 3 feet deep, just inside the string-marked perimeter. Lowering the boom arm, lining up the scoop just inside the string, he let Minnie take her first bite. Even though he'd been doing this for many years, Jim still enjoyed the rumbling of the engine and the soothing rhythm of the work. On mornings like this, time fell away, the levers and pedals becoming mere extensions of his body, the boom and bucket gracefully and efficiently slicing into the soil, lifting, swinging, dumping, then going back for more. At the end of each day, he could see what he had accomplished for himself. Straight lines, crisp corners, clean edges, and everything level. That's how he measured success. Grabbing a granola bar he had in his truck, Jim washed it down with the last of his coffee and worked through lunch. The trench now reached more than 3/4 of the way around the foundation footprint. With any luck, he'd be out of here before dark. Swinging himself back up into his seat, he fired Minnie up and lowered the arm to take the next scoop. He was only halfway in when the bucket stalled. Must have hit something, but this wasn't a rocky area. He tried again, repositioning the bucket to take another bite. It didn't stall this time, but something definitely didn't feel right. Tree root, maybe. Irritated at the potential delay, he climbed down and peered into the pit to see what he'd hit and if he could pull it out by hand. What the hell? Next to the metal teeth that had unearthed it lay a thick, long bone with a distinctive knobby end. A flatter bone was stuck halfway out of the side of the trench nearby. Both were stained various shades of dark brown. Realizing what he was probably looking at, Jim scrabbled back from the edge of the trench to the safety of his machine. With shaky hands, he reached up and powered off the excavator, then pulled out his phone and dialed 911. He would not be going home early today.